If a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. Martin Luther King Jr. We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Martin Luther King Jr. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, it must be demanded by the oppressed. Martin Luther King Jr. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Martin Luther King Jr. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. Martin Luther King Jr. We are not makers of history. We are made by history. Martin Luther King Jr. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. Martin Luther King Jr. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Martin Luther King Jr. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right, temporarily defeated, is stronger than evil triumphant. Martin Luther King Jr. Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. Martin Luther King Jr. We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. Martin Luther King Jr. A genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus but a molder of consensus. Martin Luther King Jr. The time is always right to do what is right. Martin Luther King Jr. That old law about an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. The time is always right to do the right thing. Martin Luther King Jr. Man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Martin Luther King Jr. Whatever your life's work is, do it well. A man should do his job so well that the living, the dead, and the unborn could do it no better. Martin Luther King Jr. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. Martin Luther King Jr. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Martin Luther King Jr. History will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. Martin Luther King Jr. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. Martin Luther King Jr. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to take a stand for that which is true. Martin Luther King Jr. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right. Martin Luther King Jr. If we are to go forward, We must go back and rediscover those precious values, that all reality hinges on moral foundations and that all reality has spiritual control. Martin Luther King Jr.